Officer second class, retired, Royal Canadian Navy. I did nearly 20 years in the RCN. In that time, my field was communications. I also did some other work with mine warfare, boarding parties, things like that. My last deployment before I left the service was an anti-drug smuggling patrol off of Central America, on the Pacific side. Now, some of you older children may know that cocaine comes into the country, cocaine being an especially horrific illegal drug, comes into the country from South America. And it's brought up from South America, usually in small boats. Our job was to intercept the small boats and disrupt the drug trade that's ruining so many lives here. During that deployment, we were away for about 3 months, and in that time we were credited with disrupting or seizing 2,000 kilograms of cocaine, which would have a value in Canada of hundreds of millions of dollars. We were very proud of that particular deployment. So, why are we here today? Well, my take on it is this. We're commemorating some extraordinarily brave men and women who went to war on our behalf. And they went to war on our behalf because they believed the lives and freedom of others were more important than their own lives. So they went to war as a personal sacrifice for the good of others, people around the world. Now specifically, of course, this year we're paying a great deal of attention to World War I. It's Sunday, on Remembrance Day proper. It's the 100th anniversary of the armistice coming into effect in 1918 that ended that war. That war lasted for slightly over 4 years. Canada went to war as part of the British Empire, as did India, after Germany invaded Belgium in August of 1914. On the 4th of August, Britain and the Empire entered the war, and all the various colonies and dominions within the Empire were at war because of that. So that meant in India, the army was mobilizing, and in Canada, the army was mobilizing. And soldiers from both Canada and India would end up fighting in Europe against the German aggression, protecting people, their homes, and their freedoms. They'd also fight in other areas, such as Gallipoli in the south of Europe, against the Turks. The Turks at that time were engaged in a mass slaughter of Armenians, a genocide against the Iranian people. It's interesting to think that your ancestors and my ancestors may well have been in Gallipoli together. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. In World War II, Germany again attacked another country. This time it was Poland. And on the 3rd of September, the British Empire went to war because Germany would not leave Poland. In that attack on Poland, they killed many, many civilians. They shot teachers and priests and killed people just because of their choice of religion. On the 3rd of September, when Britain entered the war, India, again being part of the empire, was also at war and mobilized. And many, many soldiers from the Punjab mobilized and went to protect people in Europe and across the world. Later on the 10th of September, as Canada now had more freedom from Britain, on the 10th of September, Canada joined the war in 1939. Because Canada did not feel that what was happening in Europe was right or just. In 1941, the war spread and included Japan. And as Japan aggression spread across Southeast Pacific and Asia, India was threatened. As Mr. Sidhu stated, his grandfather was sent to defend the border with Burma, where the Japanese were. Now, it took very, very brave men to fight the Japanese, because if you fell prisoner to them, you were likely going to be killed. There were a number of Sikh soldiers who were captured and tied to trees by them and used for bayonet practice. Bayonets are the swords that go on the end of guns, so you can stab people with your rifle. So these were incredibly brave men who gave up their lives for our freedom, so we can practice our religions, so we can elect our leaders, so we can live our lives as free people. We owe them a great debt of gratitude. We also remember, of course, the people who went to Korea to fight communist aggression there. Canada sent a substantial contingent to fight in Korea and protect South Korea against the communist aggression of the North. And India sent a large medical contingent, despite being a country just formed, or just independent. We also, of course, remember the peacekeepers who helped establish and maintain peace throughout the world over the last 60 years. And most recently, our brave men and women, such as Sergeant Hancock, who've gone to Afghanistan to help that country live in peace. When we first went to Afghanistan as a country in 2000, I suppose we were there in 2002 initially, with the main deployment following starting in 2003. But when we first went there, it was a country where girls were not allowed to go to school. And if they did try and go to school, those who taught them might be killed, or the girls might have acid thrown in their faces. That's why our men and women went there. They went there to defend people and support their freedom to live their lives as they deemed proper. So, I wanted to mention a Sikh gentleman I've come across in World War II, a true hero who was fighting again on the Burma border, protecting India from the Japanese. He was awarded the highest medal of gallantry in the British Empire, the Victoria Cross. The citation, his name was Nand Singh. The citation reads that on the 12th of March 1944, Nand Singh was ordered to recapture a position that had been taken by the enemy on the Mokda-Othendong Road in Burma. He led his section under extremely heavy machine gun and rifle fire up a steep knife-edge slope. Nand Singh was wounded in the thigh, but they successfully captured the first trench. Crawling forward on his own, he was again wounded, this time in the shoulder and face. In spite of this, he went on to capture 2 more trenches alone. This incredible bravery, and it was done for all of us, so that we can live in freedom and peace. And lastly, I want to mention that personal contact I touched on earlier. My great-great-grandfather lied about his age in 1914 and joined the Royal Navy in London, England. He was eventually deployed to Gallipoli in the south of Europe fighting the Turks. He was on a British Navy minesweeper, and they were, of course, leading the invasion boats up to the beach there. And there were many, many Sikh regiments that were used in that campaign. One of them, the 14th, actually suffered 80% casualties. But I like to think that maybe my great-grandfather And some of your ancestors might have met there and fought the same enemy and fought for freedom together. As we say in the Catholic faith, to quote John 15:13, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." Or as in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, "The great warrior is recognized to fighting for righteousness. He may die by being cut piece by piece, but he never leaves the battlefield." Thank you very much.